Okay, so welcome to class tonight. This is kind of our catch-up night. You've done all of the work. Now's the time that we kind of sit, crowdsource, have a little fun, and get to know ourselves. I'll start right off and let me grab my screen. Let me share my screen. And let me know if you can see. I've got a presentation. I'll get it bigger. And it's all consolidated. Okay, everybody can see what's on the screen. So it's a small little deck for tonight. We're in EDU643. We're taking this giant airplane kind of view and drilling it down to get you to your next class, which you're gonna actually start building course design. We're gonna take a look at it first from this big picture of the role of social presence. Then we're gonna take it down to the LMS, which is an important contributor to it. And then going even a step further, we're going to take a look at developing some checklists, guidelines, some frameworks to help you then, as you venture into your next class, be able to work pretty efficiently through everything. So just a quick few housekeeping. I don't think we have to spend much time because Mike did end up going over it. So you have a Blackboard course. Our course is, the last two digits are 61. So when you go on there, it's EDU643. I'll use that for announcements, and then that's where we'll put grades and perhaps a few other small tasks. Mike talked about the Twitter. I know there's a few people that still need to get out and tweet a few things. I'm not going to look at it till tomorrow, and then we'll post it up. The goal is, it starts the week off. It's the thinking part. So we're just looking to see that you're out there having a healthy conversation, trying to show your thinkings and get some inquisition and camaraderie and some connections going with your peers. The course website, I believe everybody's been there, but if you haven't, that's the link to it and the password. To reach me, the quickest way is by email. I'm more than glad to schedule a quick little Zoom to catch up if there's something that's critical, or like Ashley talked about, if you have a question about where to put your blog or any of your work for the week, just feel free to, shoot me a quick email, let me know a few times that you're available, and we can connect, and you can share your screen and kind of show me what you're up to or what you're thinking about it. We will try to respond really quick though. This week is so short, and I feel really strongly about this, and I hope you all do too. You need the weekend to repair. So during the week, I don't know about you, I like to work hard, but I like to play hard too. So, I'm all for, let's work really hard, get our time in. Wednesday and Thursday on your schedules, if you can really just plan some blocks of time that you can do the work. That Friday becomes that sliding scale down, and Saturday's cleanup if you have anything to do in my book. So I really encourage you to think about, what your days can look like, or your nights that you're doing some of your work, but you'll need some rest and relaxation. This is hard. It's unlike getting your bachelor's degree. It really reminds me more of, being in a doctoral program at times, because the thinking is deeper. The benefits though, you all start with such a leg up this fall. And I don't know about you, we find out around July 15th what we're doing in Ann Arbor Public Schools. And so we have three pretty different plans ready to go behind the scenes, but we're going to start unlocking it. And I know if I was in the classroom, I would love to have that leg up and already have a good stance and understanding and way to, build an online class and get that interactivity. We all participated in COVID, where it was such a shocker to our system, to our students, to our families, to everybody, in the world. And so this is just a nice chance this summer to get to work on it. There are scheduled meetups, and the meetups are on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. Somebody had asked me a question earlier, if I can't make a Tuesday night meeting, I have a child that's playing a sport, or I have a family event. You just have to, if you want points for it, you just have to go ahead and watch the video from the course, the recording, and then there'll be some additional questions that you'll need to ask to get the credit for it. It's by far much easier just to come to class and participate, but it's completely up to you. We're all adults, and I know that you know, things come and go, and times just bring about different measures that need to happen. And then every Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, we'll also offer evening connection hours. You don't have to come. Those are all optional. If you are stuck at a point in your project or you want to talk through what you've really worked hard on, you can pop into that at your leisure, and it'll be from 7 to 8 p.m. And then other times as needed. As Mike said, Ashley, Mike, and I, we're all going to try, this week we didn't. The switch up in Blackboard really presented a great opportunity to open up a lot more office hours for everybody. So next week, we'll try to go ahead and offer a variety of office hours on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Friday. Is there anything else that needs to, you know, be addressed? You know, just open up and share if there's anything else before we get started with our work tonight.
I do have a quick question, and maybe it was updated today, but yesterday when I was on Blackboard, there was no section for grading. I don't know, like there's nowhere to view any grades or anything.
Yep, we'll open it up. So okay. When we originally thought about this, you know, we're doing it atypical. We're trying to pull things out of that traditional Blackboard system and give you some other experiences. And so we just locked down those 4 assignments, grades, and a few others. So they just sit in an unpublished format. So sometime tomorrow or Thursday, we'll start to open them up. We really want your energies to be on the thinking part of it. And, you know, if you do the work, the grades will follow with the work. So isn't that the same thing we always tell our students? Do the work and you will get the grade you desire. Any other questions? Yeah.
For grading, I know a lot of the grades like 590 were pass fail. What is it? Is there a rubric, or is there like?
It's just going to be points. So each week we try to offer about 100 points, and for like the Monday Twitter, it was 10 points. For tonight, it's 10 points. For your assignments on Wednesday and Thursday, they're a little bit bigger, and then for your blogs, they're a little bit smaller. So you know, we're not looking to ding you on all of these areas, but we want you to make great attempts at your work along the way. So, you know, if you don't like what you get, you always have the opportunity to resubmit. I mean, you know, we're all about reaching mastery in those higher levels. So, you know, what you put in is what you get out of it. We have somebody flying a plane or weed whacking or any other questions that need to be addressed?
Yeah, I do have a quick question.
Sure.
So on the Thursday evenings, will those be treated the same as Tuesday? Will we be, say if I do happen to miss a Thursday evening, will I have to?
No, you're not obligated. Thursday evenings are optional. They're really, you know, you're in the crux of your work or close to the end of that second section of work. And so we just want to offer an opportunity. You just pop in. You don't even schedule a time. From 7 to 8, we'll always be available. You can pop in and ask any questions. Because sometimes people just like to, was I on the right track? Was I, you know, did I take it to the depth that we needed to? And so they're just little check-in, just optional.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Anybody else?
Yep, sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Griffin. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to know, are the Tuesday night meetings, are those typically an hour? Is that like a 7 to 8 thing?
So 7 to 8:30 is what they would show for courses.
Okay.
Tonight will, of course, probably take a little time, and I did shave off one activity knowing that we probably wouldn't get to it. We'll end when we can. We definitely will not go past 8:30, but if we get done a little sooner, then we'll release a little sooner.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just to clarify, the website is, it like alludes to this, but it doesn't say it outright. Those 3 questions that are asked to email, those are only if we don't attend the in-person meetings, correct?
Right. Yes, you are not getting a quiz tonight. You've all earned your 10 points for being here. So no, it's just a way to make sure that somebody has watched, you know, the all course recording and did get something out of it. So nope, you're good to go. There's no other work after tonight. It's just get ready for for some big thinking and doing tomorrow. Anybody else?
Sorry, I have a question too. I was
Sure.
one of the people who, even though I teach middle school, I was put into the elementary class. Is there something like, should I email? Because I don't remember what, Heather or Amanda. Should I email her and let her know that I was in your session, or is there?
No, we'll go ahead. Don't worry about any of those items. We'll take care of it. You know, we're adults. Go to a session that's of interest to you. And each week we might just change it up a little bit. So you'll have plenty of opportunities to make it around the professor ring. Anybody else? Let's go ahead and get started then. So the first thing, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute after you see this, is session icebreaker. You know, what makes a good online learning is we really should be spending some time to get to know each other, right? So we're a little short on time tonight, so we're going to call it, you get one word. So one word, everybody gets to define themselves. We'll do it in the Zoom chat box. And what I would like you to do is go ahead and add your Twitter handle so people can see your Twitter, and you can snap pictures or whatever of that to grab some of those from your peers. But, or you can do it on the website now that they're starting to link up. But go in, just like I did, at Heather Kellstrom, equal extreme. You'll have to explain why, but I'm going to give you just a minute to pop into the chat and let's see what we can come up with. We'll do one more minute. Interesting. Morgan Seeley, sarcastic. Tell us, what does this mean about you?
I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm pretty sarcastic. I relate well to middle schoolers because of it.
Well, I was just going to say, if you're a middle school teacher, you rock then, because that's survival of the fittest, yeah. Right?
Yep.
Some days, I mean,
do it.
I used to teach elementary years and years ago, and sometimes I would walk away and go, sarcasm lost on everybody today.
Yeah.
So
my
I'd have to go to lunch to get some adult time.
Yeah.
Let's see who else we have here. Courtney, hectic. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm a single mom of 3, from 4 to 18. So it's crazy, and I'm planning my son's open house right now. So
wow,
my life is hectic.
That had to be hard to teach in the spring, to have all of those. So I have a luxury. I have a daughter in a PhD program right now in occupational therapy. So I can't imagine in COVID times teaching, being a parent, you know, all of the other emotional supports that you had to provide, not only the students, but your family and even your well-being. So that had to be a tough haul to make. Yeah. Let's see, who out quiet? Where's Michelle?
That's me.
So Michelle, I'm sorry to make you have to speak. You already spoke once.
Yeah.
So truly you're quiet as a middle school teacher. What do you teach?
I teach 7th grade English.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess not so much my teaching, but more like around people I don't know. I'm usually pretty quiet and kind of like a little RBF, which I'm not actually, but I'm kind of quiet, but not in the classroom, just anywhere else.
Okay, well, we fixed you today. Now you're not quiet in here, right?
Right.
Okay, so the reverse, where's Tyler? Where's Tyler today?
Right here.
Tyler, so you're outgoing?
Yeah, I would describe myself as outgoing. More so when I'm around people, when I'm around friends, coworkers, stuff like that. Just kind of always up to try something new, do something adventurous, do something that, maybe somebody else would say, well, I don't think I would ever want to do that. But yeah, so outgoing.
So Tyler, if we need to phone a friend or somebody needs help, would you be a person that I could link somebody up with?
Of course.
Okay, because outgoing people will just, Google it or do whatever needs to be done, right?
Yes. Well,
Okay,
I don't know about
I'll
whatever
remember
needs to be
that.
done, but if it's within reason, then yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm really piqued by, is it Mary Beth? Two-sided? What does that mean?
Well, in the classroom, I feel pretty extroverted, but take me outside of the school building and I'm not at all. I'm really very introverted. I find that, that's the bottom line. So
I like it. I like it. Bethany, this is the last one we'll do for today. Thriving. What do we need to know about you?
So actually Tyler and I are married, and so we're just in a really awesome situation. We just bought our home and we love our school district. We're excited for this program, and so yeah, we're just excited about life and everything to come.
So you're in the same house in two different rooms.
Yep.
You didn't
Yeah.
feel comfortable sharing a screen?
We wanted to make sure we both got counted. So
Well, that's spoken like teachers, right? Everything's about points and checks and dues. Okay.
Yeah, we also wanted to.
What'd you think about this one-word activity?
it was fun. It was hard.
You thought it was hard?
I used thesaurus.com.
Do you think your students might like something like this? Middle schoolers are interesting. They don't want to be treated too young. They don't want to be, they don't like stuff that's too hard. So, how do you find that middle ground to it? Well, thanks for playing. That was kind of fun, I thought. Okay, let's move it right along. Let me share back my screen. Okay. And, you can pull up the presentation. You don't have to be looking at the screen the whole time. I'm not offended in any way. I always laugh because I worked in a different district. I will keep that name quiet. And my boss always made us put our lids down. And I always found it hard to go to, as adults, we're always multitasking and doing things. And I'm always like, okay, I don't know how I feel about having to put my screen down. So anyway, it's your freedom to be looking on your screen, be doing things on the side, but just listen well. Today, I wanted to start with something called the Stanford D School. Anybody know anything about the Stanford D School? Not one taker today, huh? So Stanford, it's obviously the D School is from Stanford University. It's a place that I would say, it's a place for exploration and experimentation. It helps people develop their creative abilities, and it's around building a team of community and a mindset. And so they have proposed for many years a design thinking model. And the course that you're participating in, the 643 course, how we've designed it is to step through each of these pieces: the empathize, the design, the ideate, prototype, and test. We were short a week. You stayed in 590 a little longer, so we didn't get to do it. So your first activity was to empathize, right? That was a combination from 590 and 643. We actually had activities to do, but we just teamed them together. So each week we're going to step through this different path. Why it's important is what we're experiencing in education, what we've always experienced is, first, education is a complex system. And so there aren't easy solutions to everything. And one system affects another system, affects another system. And so, in some days, I think we all feel some level of decision fatigue because we have to make so many quick decisions on a moment's notice. And I always say I have a team of 30 educational technology staff. And what I always say is, we don't have to answer every decision in one day. And sometimes that think time really helps us craft, recraft, and build a better solution to what's at task. And so this design thinking is from Stanford is a methodology that provides us that solution-based approach. It is great for tackling ill-defined or unknown problems. So COVID-19 is one of the biggest experiments ever, right, in education. And so it's just a nice pathway to walk through. It has these 5 stages. There's debate over whether you go through them linear or whether you keep going back and forth. And I just encourage you as you're moving forward to use it. One thing that I really like about it is it's very creative. In today's times really require us to have some creative solutions to problems. And so if you want to know more, there's 3 links in that presentation that you can take a look at. There's also videos and other unique things. I went to a session, I was at a Ed Leader conference many years ago, and on a whim, a spot opened up for it. And I went in, I had the best 4 hours of my life running through this design thinking model. And in the end, what I had to create, I had to vet to 4th graders. So it was really fun to do all this hard work. And then my Shark Tank were 7 4th graders that ate me up and spit me out for my solutions and sent me back for a round 2. So it was really pretty interesting. Today, we're going to work on the definition. We've talked a lot about social skills, and so we're going to sharpen our thinking around the social presence today. So we're going to start right away doing some crowdsourcing together. We've got 2 options. You guys get to decide the pathway for the team. So today our job is to define the various problems that relate to K-12 online learning with social presence. So we either can go the Padlet route or the Google Docs route. Does anybody have a choice?
Google Docs.
Google Docs it is. So if you don't have the presentation open, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I will throw a link up to that Google Doc. Or not. I'll throw a link up to the presentation deck again, in case anybody wasn't there. And then pop in, and then I will go into the presentation itself. You're going to get a minute. If you pull up the Google Doc, and let me just pull it up here, and then I'll throw that code in. So if you pull up the Google Doc, give that a go and see if that takes you in there. The Google Doc simply has a bunch of boxes. And it says, define the various problems with K-12 online courses related to social presence. Start filling it, put some ideas in. What are those problems? If you agree with somebody else has already written your problem, put an asterisk or some way to know that multiple people feel the same way. But let's take about 5 minutes just to start filling it in. And you can pick anywhere on the grid and you can add to it. So this is your document for a moment. Now, if I was smart, I would have put some music on, but I'll do that next time. I'll get smarter. But if anybody has some music they want to share, turn it on. We'll do just a couple more minutes. It's filled up nicely. Okay, can everybody see my screen? We see the document that we're working in? Rack on. We'll let Anonymous Hippo keep on going up there in that first box. So right away, the problems start to stand out. I'm going to hit all the ones that have many asterisks, and let's talk a minute about it. So what are the problems with social presence? And especially like in that middle school setting, somebody wrote in hard to model. Actually, 3 or 4 people thought. Who wants to talk a minute about that? Why is it hard to model?
I felt like if I put a video of me modeling instead of requiring it to be live, that students would jump into the assignment without watching the video of the instructions or how to do it. And then they would email me with questions. I'm like, did you watch my video? Like, I spent time making it, but they just want to get it over with, want to get school over with. And so they're not taking that time.
Yeah, and how does that, we live in a society where getting things over with is very popular, right? Everything's a checkbox these days. And so it's hard to do a really great job when everything's a checkbox or feel satisfied as a teacher, as a professional, right? I notice building relationships, that has a lot of asterisks next to it. What do we know about, what are the problems with that?
I'll kind of touch on that because I wrote that one. For me, my students, I spend like the whole first 2 weeks just getting to know them, getting to know things they like. And for my demographic of students, they need relationships sometimes more than they need to learn something right away. So when I say building relationships, like I'm specifically thinking of, especially for me, like my LGBTQ kids, who we build those really strong relationships. And when they're at home, it's harder to build those in-person relationships because, you know, you're not there for them, and them being able to contact you, it takes more time instead of just walking to my classroom and asking questions. So it kind of makes it harder to build those personal relationships.
Does anybody want to add to what Michelle just talked about?
Just to add on to that, I was thinking too, with COVID hitting in the spring, I feel the relationships that I built with my students all year really helped us make that transition. And so I worry in the fall, if we do need to start online, what that transition or what even online learning would look for me as a teacher and for my students, not knowing their learning styles and not knowing their needs right away and getting to know them. So I think the relationships would be harder to make not face-to-face, since we're not, if we don't start out that way.
That's a really good point to make. And I saw that in Twitter yesterday. There, you know, it's an unsettling time, and relationships are what education is all based on. And so how do we transition those healthy, productive, interactive, positive in an online environment? It's a big ask these days. There was one in here. I always am interested by the students and parents not responding to communications that were sent to them. So I had something interesting happen in my school district. So we have about 18,300 students. And so, you know, those students have a good 36 or 40,000 parents, and you start adding it up, and there's just a lot of, and all students, you know, whether in elementary, middle, or secondary, even if you're in elementary, you take a lot of support classes as well. So we got calls from parents going, I'm not reading emails anymore. I got 36 last week, and it was too much. So when I see something that says students and parents not responding to communication, talk to me from your perspective.
I can talk about that. I wrote that one. So I think it was frustrating. I always tried like very hard to limit my email communication with parents because I would get so many saying I get too many. So I really send like one email a week, and it's long, but it is everything for the week, and that's it. But I would send like individual emails to a parent and student combo to be like, hey, I haven't heard from you in like 2 weeks. What's going on? I just want to check in. Is everything okay? You know, if something's going on, I just want to know. You know, normally it wasn't even like, hey, you're not doing the work. It was, what's going on at the house? Is everything okay? And just not getting anything back. Like I had a mom who the last week of school was shocked her son got an incomplete. And I said, he hasn't done anything for 8 weeks, and I've emailed you 8 times. Individual emails to you, really only once a week, and just like nothing. So even with trying to limit it, feeling like really essential emails focused on that student didn't get responded to.
That is really hard, isn't it? Talk to me about, this is a big one, especially for the fall. I don't know if you all felt like it, but in the spring, we probably had a little more leniency on what we had to do, right? So we pick up in the fall. I don't know, in our district, we got a couple week grace, then the pressure started to come from families, and then we got a little more grace, and then more pressure. And so there was this delicate balance about just connecting versus stepping it up to do connection and academics and building, you know, better cognitive presence. So how do we, you know, who put it out there about getting students to share out and hold academic conversations? There's a lot of asterisks there. So let's spend a few minutes just wrapping our minds around that one.
Yeah, so I wrote that particular one, and from a personal standpoint, I experienced that in a number of ways. I had students that in the classroom, they wouldn't hesitate to, for example, come up with like this long, great response to a certain question, and they, you know, were awesome and they were rocking it out, and then it turned to the shutdown, and they were putting in kind of the bare minimum, and just getting them to kind of return to their old selves was hard. And I think they were facing other pressures and, you know, possibly having to balance their other classes as well. But that was just, it was kind of hard for me to see that because I knew what these students were capable of, and I saw them shine during the school year in person. And then in the online setting, it's not like they weren't doing absolutely nothing. They just weren't achieving to their potential or what they had beforehand.
That's a good point to make. Anybody else want to add on to that?
I feel like we're,
oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Megan. I think like Rachel was saying, I felt like students started to hear like my grades aren't going to count, and so it just became like like we were saying, check the box, and someone was explaining it earlier in here, just this idea of they would go on, they do it bare minimum. And so trying to get them to engage further when in a classroom, typically when they kind of know like I'm here for this hour, they would start to ask those questions. And when they were home, I felt like they just decided, I don't have to ask this question because I can be done and move on. And I know I'm going to just like get the same grade everybody else.
That was a big, you know, so when it was done, it was when everybody agreed to that, it was kind of done from an emotional level. We need you to, you know, find some balance, anchor in positivity, like we will get through this. And that was a big problem, right? When we threw that out there, it disconnected. I know schools, I know some high schools that kids didn't even show up. Like, you know, they were trying to count attendance and asking them, just respond to our emails or show us that, do a check for understanding or something. And the kids were like, I'm a senior, I'm out of here. It's no big deal. So that is really tough. Anybody else want to add to that academic one? Because that is a major problem moving forward.
From my perspective, I just found kids who wanted to be the joker and not take it seriously. And that was really hard. And usually it was somebody that wasn't a joker in the traditional classroom.
I always wonder when that happens, do you think it was just the urgency and unsettledness and scariness of the times that sometimes brought that about? Or was this their inner wild self feeling that, you know, they could really be something, be that wild jokester kid that, you know, everybody goofed around with during school? Was this their time to break out and find their what they wanted to be?
I think that really could have been the case, because I also had students who would make almost rude comments to me, and they would have never in the classroom. And I think, okay, I'm in the safety of this environment. I'm at home. I feel myself, feel comfortable. That wasn't, my husband wasn't naked.
I know, I don't know about you all. I questioned it for a second. I'm like, well, I guess I'm gonna have to edit this video out.
No. It's just really hot here. But yeah, I think it was just they were in the safety of their homes and thought they'd be a little more themselves.
Okay.
I think too with that, like, it's kind of the same thing we see on social media. When people are behind a keyboard, they are more willing to say things that they wouldn't say to your face. Like, I had a student, he was like my A student and didn't do any work for me. And then the last week submitted a document that said, like, F you, Miss Black. And I was like,
wow. All
right. So I think, like, being online and being behind the keyboard makes them a little more bold, especially at the middle school level.
Does that bring about another problem that needs to be addressed with technology and usage of it and etiquette and bullying?
The thing
creating trolls.
That I keep hearing of all the conversation is that we're comparing them to the kids they were in our classroom and expect them to be the same kids out of our classroom. But if we start online next year, we don't have that prior knowledge of who that kid is in the classroom to base that off of.
That's a good point to bring up. Anybody else have some insight into this, how you know, this problem of holding these academic conversations?
Actually, I wanted to cycle back to the accountability part, because so much of what I did in my own class for academic conversations, it was a lot of scaffolding, a lot of like, turn and talk to your neighbor, now talk to like your group mates, and now, you know, let's create something larger. And then there's like, you know, 8 things to share out. But you just don't, I couldn't find a way to do that in like an appropriate amount of time. And like everyone has to be on at the same time. And I would use sticks sometimes, and it could just be my philosophy, but they had to try. You know, I would help them, I'd give them a sense of STEM, but like they had to try. And I couldn't do that. You know, literally a kid could just like exit and then they would never come back. So,
geez.
Well, that didn't happen, but like that's what I imagine. You know, knowing some of my kids, like I feel like if I was drawing sticks, like, okay, you got to try, you know, they would just like click out, and then they wouldn't want to come back. So that's something I'm looking forward to, is like, how can I think for me, that was the hardest part, was like, there's no accountability.
Right.
Or they do the thing where, Bethany, to your point, we had this happen in one of my classes where I co-teach in 5 different subjects. I'm the EL teacher at my school. So I was sitting in on one, and me and one of my co-teachers like, oh yeah, that was like a really great point you posted on Google Classroom. Do you want to share it? We call on the kid's name. He's in the class, no video though. Call on his name again. One more time. We're like, okay, I guess he's taking a nap today, not in class today. He's clicked on, but not actually there. So that, I think, could become a little bit of a problem if there's no like requirement on any like actual video time from the kids.
So the news on this is we probably haven't even crowdsourced half of the ideas, right? We have lots of problems that we need to address, and knowing these problems, defining them up front. So, you know, you empathized earlier in the week, and then you have to define. And sometimes we assume we always know all of the definitions or what we're looking for problem-wise. This list probably could continue to be added on to, but these are our known starting points to help us to start make decisions and build something that will accommodate some of these barriers that we perceive and turn them into opportunities. And so this is a big ask. You know, I look on the sheet, funding is out of our control, right? Some things are within our control and some things are out of our control. Getting students to read carefully. That's a really interesting thought to have. How do we get them to just not gloss over or know everything's, you know, you can't just say everything's important. You know, how do you nitpick and get them to, you know, read those point of views the right way? Lots to think about and consider as we move forward. That was well done. I like that. I like crowdsourcing. I always think that it's just a fun thing to do. Okay, we're going to break into some breakout teams. The Zoom is going to assign them for us. I'm not going to assign them, but everybody have open that presentation. If you go to slide 6, I'll share my screen so you can see it. So on slide 6, Mike, let me just push that down for a minute. Mike put a little nugget out there for us. Do you see my slide number 6 that says activity 2? Nope. Yeah, it didn't grab it for some reason. Let me try that again. There we go. Okay. So Mike put a little tweet out there yesterday. I don't know if any of you read it. I think he would be disappointed to see there was no likes, no retweets, no questioning back. So in the future, heads up to you all, you want to make sure you're pinging back Dr. DeShriver during Twitter week. So next week, make sure if you see something, he's doing a little professorial work with you. So he put one out there that said, in one of the articles that we read, that there was a lot of references to cognitive presence. And in that document, page 44 had talked about hooks, triggering events, and student interest as key to the CP. So the question that you're going to answer in your group today is, to what extent, and a little typo, what extent do these hooks have to overlap with the other elements of the SP or the SPM model? So we're going to let Zoom put you in some groups. That's the question you're going to tackle, and then we'll come back together. So let's see. Get out of my chat so I can see all of my items. My little computer's going, stop pushing me so hard. There we go. So we're gonna go into, we'll go into 4 rooms, and it's gonna create the breakouts. I'm gonna open the rooms. You're gonna spend no more than 5 to 7 minutes. I'll give you a little warning. So your rooms should be coming to you and you can head out. You're back by the miracle of technology. Okay, Mike asks big and deep questions always. So who has some ideas around this tweet of his?
All right, I can kind of.
Yay, Tyler! Yay, Tyler! Bring it
I said
on.
I was outgoing, so I have to live up to that. So I'm going to try to summarize what my group said, and for my other group members, if you want to chime in, that'd be great. So we really kind of focused on the hook aspect of that question and how important that is with getting student interest and getting them engaged. We talked about how in a normal classroom setting, we try our best as teachers to have our own hooks and get students interested, whether that be something that's related to the academic process that we're doing that day or something that's just totally fun, something that's like a dance or something silly like that, like flossing with middle schoolers. I've done it plenty of times before, you know, starting the day like that. But can you do that in an online setting? And we were struggling to find out what that would look like and how students would get hooked into learning online. So that was about as far as we got in our discussion.
That was a great start. I really like it. You're already questioning, can we do what we did in the classroom? Because, you know, middle school, they take a lot sometimes to get engaged, don't they?
Yes.
And just when you think they have them, they fall apart right on you. And it, you know, have you ever been in a teacher evaluation and it's going smooth, and then all of a sudden it's off the rails, and you just want to say to your evaluator, like, have you never taught before? You know, because in elementary, you can keep them all tight and aligned, and pretty much in high school, they know there's something with the brain. In the middle school, they're clueless of what is what's happening around them, right? Okay, good start. Next group. Anybody else have want to add on to that or go a different direction?
Just to add on to that, we talked about how to hook middle schoolers and get to know their interests even when you're getting to know them online. So icebreakers were brought up, like engaging icebreakers that they would be interested in. And then also one thing that Venna said in our group was that the cognitive presence doesn't really exist without the social presence, so that social presence of really getting to know your students too, they work together. So I don't know if she wanted to add anything on, but that I thought was really great.
Yeah, do you want to add just a little bit what you're thinking on that?
I felt like Taylor did a great job.
Sorry to throw you under the bus too, but it was good.
No, I'm kidding. I basically was just like, you know, looking at that, you know, his tweet, it says like, you know, there's a lot of reference to cognitive presence and how it overlaps. And, you know, he was questioning that. And I think without having like a solid social presence and like without, you know, getting into each layer of the social presence model, there is no, like, they're not going to be engaged. They're not going to be, everything's just going to fall apart, just like it would if kids weren't engaged in a classroom. So having that hook, I think that's just where I was getting at it.
Very cool. I like that you influenced one of your partners, right? And got them to think a little bit more. Another group, what did you guys come up with?
My group was talking about the cognitive presence and why we think that they're not engaged when they might have been normally. And then I brought up how a lot of them, they're getting to the middle school level, they're mature enough to maybe look at the news. And I was telling my group how we had multiple students at our school who screenshotted the governor's orders and showed it to their parents and said, I don't have to do this. And then we had other students who were like picking and choosing what subjects they were working on and what they weren't. So a student that was doing really well in my class, I nominated him for Student of the Month, and then all the other teachers basically declined it because they said that he wasn't doing anything for them. So it's really interesting to see the different levels of kids during this shutdown for that. And that might be a reason why they weren't engaged. They're either picking and choosing or because they know that they don't have to do it.
future lawyers if they're out snapping what the governor says, right?
Yeah, and that was the student of a teacher at our school too.
Yeah, it always goes like, things always come around. Another group, what did you guys come up with to Mike's Twitter, his tweet?
So my group, we kind of talked about what hook activities should look like or should aim to achieve going forward. So kind of touching like the 5 like social presence, you know, it talks about like respect and sharing and open-mindedness, and we kind of brought up the idea that hook activities should be open-ended. You know, if you want open-mindedness and you want to establish that they're sharing, let them give their opinion, maybe without something that maybe with something that doesn't have a definite answer, so that when you come back together as a group, they can talk and see other opinions and things like that.
You know, it's interesting that you talk about opinions. So it's one thing in school when we have time to do activities or, you know, we're leading them down to the pathway of answers. The more narrow that you start, everything's Googleable, right? If you take it down at this base level, you pretty much probably can find an answer for everything. But if you take it up a notch or two and you throw it at a much higher level, it does require more discourse and, you know, thinking power and doing power and maybe some researching. So I think you have hit a moment there. My suggestion to all of you is to respond to him, right back to him. Go read page 44. I think he'd really appreciate and feel like his week on Twitter, because this was his topic area, has come full circle. So can you all do me a favor and pop on and just give a response to him? But check out page 44 first. That's my hint to you. And then show him what we got at the middle school that we took some time to honor. He has spent a lot of years working on this topic and model and finds great interest in it. So do we think we can do that? Bonus points. If you ever need bonus points, I'm putting them in through that. Okay. I just want to finish with just a few things. We aren't going to get, I knew we wouldn't get to the other activities. I just want you to think a little bit about them as you begin to do your work. So let me find. Okay, can you see my screen? I'll put it on present. So his tweet was probably one of the early ones, but you can follow it through the hashtags if you haven't done that. Just use the hashtags, you'll run into them, or click on him and you can find that. The last breakout we were going to do, and like I said, I knew we wouldn't have time, was by content area. And so next time I think we probably will do it by content area, because I think LMS would lend itself well to do this by content area. But I want you to think about these ratios. You know, we have all these elements of our social presence model. And what's the ratio that works for the students you serve? So in a middle school setting, if we're all middle school individuals, then we've got to go and start breaking it down by content areas. So does it look different in math? Is the ratio different in math versus ELA? Is the ratio different in special ed versus ELA? Where's electives really compared to everybody else? So I want you to think about that. You don't have to do anything with it, but I think it'll help you anchor some of the work that you're going to do shortly with it. And the other thing is to think about when you connect up with your district partner that, you know, they probably don't teach the same grade range. They might not teach the same grade range. And these ratios do look different from a K-5 setting versus a middle school versus a high school. So as you work through your project, just be considerate of some of these ratios that are out there. And then I did add in some of the unanswered tweets. There were a lot of unanswered tweets in this week's Twitter. And so I just put a few in that, you know, if you have answers to, feel free to chat up with those individuals. And each week we'll kind of be pulling out some of the, you know, the feeds from the Twitter activities that we do. And then it leads us to the end tonight. I really want to keep strong so you can move on and about your way. I'll have office hours on July 2nd at 7 p.m. If you need some 10 minutes carved out on earlier in the day on Thursday, feel free to send me a quick email and give me, you know, 10 minutes, a couple 10-minute times that work well. I do work during the day, and so I can pop out, you know, in 10-minute increments, but I start getting into 15. I pretty much either am on the phone or in meetings all day long these days. Assignment wise, Mike went over it really pretty well. So the tasks are listed out. The best way to tackle the rest, the Wednesday and Thursday work, carve out large blocks and do it so that it is fun for you. So take it to the beach, go to a park, put some music on. This is not supposed to be, you know, laborious and not worth anything. This goes all back to your classroom for the start of the school and beyond. So make it fun for yourself. You know, get a big coffee, make some interesting sweet dish, do something, treat yourself as you're growing your practice these next couple of days. Sometimes we find ourselves, you know, holed up in a corner or sitting at a desk for so long. Don't feel like you have to do that. Really invite your own children in to hang out with you. I can't remember who in this chat had a child and, you know, was sitting right down doing a little iPadding. I think that's great. They need to see us in action. So, you know, just, it's serious and it's deep, but you need some blocks. It's not something you can do, I have 10 minutes here or I have an hour here. You really do want to put some time into it. So try to do that. Anybody have any questions for me today before we call it to the end? So what'd you think? Was it painful?
I do have a question.
There's a couple in chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. Todd had one in the chat too. So I don't know if you want us to say them or if you just want to.
Yeah, go ahead and say them.
Okay. So my question was like, when the table that we fill out, the kind of written response and the screencast, does all of that just go onto our website and that is how we turn it in?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Just wanted
don't reinvent the wheel. Don't send us links. Just try to anchor everything on that website in some way. Sometimes the easiest way is just to make another sub page for it. But if you need help figuring it out, just go ahead and shoot me. Let me know. You know, I can see whether you have a Wix or a Google site or a Weebly or whatever, but just don't make it so difficult. Just make usually a sub page works out great.
Thank you.
Somebody asked, Amanda asked, how detailed evidence rationale are you looking for? I mean, you know, we don't want to have anything that's Googleable, and we want it to be, you know, remember your rationale is not only is for you first to you know, take a look at these tools a little bit deeper and tie it to your instructional practice. But also, you know, if you had to share this with a principal, like if your principal said, hey, I can buy you 3 premium tools instead of having to use free ones, you know, you want to have that rationale lockstep and solid, ready to go, because you never pass up an opportunity for if anybody's giving you anything. So, you know, you want to put some effort into it. If you want to shoot me like a little rough draft this first time so you can get a quick look and feel, you just need to give me, you know, a little bit of time. I'll pop in and give you a few, I won't grade it, but I'll give you a few comments or a few words to the wise. And then you can always come on that Thursday night if you want to do one more quick peek over it. Anybody else have anything for the greater good tonight? If not, I am going to stop the recording.